champion brewer, we're working out the highest 3 beers that a brewer has entered.
I was sort of expected to come in and see all stainless steel gear.
No, and this is all like stuff that I've scavenged and put together myself, old kegs and whatnot.
So it's kind of one of those things that comes later in life. You do something else, experiment a little. I suppose it's like anything, it takes a while to find what you're passionate about. Unfortunately, that gig only lasts 3 months, but because I had a foot in the door, everyone else would look at me.
Trying to find the craft beers that we found overseas was really difficult. There were some breweries open in Victoria, but it was real difficult to get good, fresh craft beer.
With the two-spotted mite, which is a pest that's perennial, we've just got to get on top of that, and we're getting a lot of help from a mob called Bugs for Bugs, who provide us with a predatory mite.
Yes, but it's all about beer, so it's a very Australian mission and a very Queensland mission.
Unfavourable conditions and a record drought meant that the Possum Lane project would come with more than its fair share of challenges. But Rick's determination was the stuff that legendary stories are made of, and he was only just getting started.
Well, the trip to Florida and Washington State was really instructive, and we've definitely got to invest in lighting. So we're going to string 85 bulbs across the crop this year and give that a crack. All the research says it works, so we're placing a lot of faith on the Americans investing quite a bit of money in the research.
There's one more little issue too. It's called a two-spotted mite, which is this tiny little bug.
With the two-spotted mite, which is a pest that's perennial, we've just got to get on top of that, and we're getting a lot of help from a mob called Bugs for Bugs, who provide us with a predatory mite, so we don't use any chemicals. We don't use any chemicals on the block.
Well, but you don't seem to get the same excitement and conversation around parsley as you do around hops. So we're going to persist.
I think
people have mainly sort of questioned, will it work? Because we're so far out of, or so far away from Tassie and Victoria, where the majority of Australia's hops are grown. But no, people have been fascinated and supportive, and hopefully we can, we can satisfy their expectations and establish something that's economic.
Rick definitely had his eyes on the prize, and although it wouldn't be the first time that it had been done, the prize would have Queensland written all over it.
I know Archer Brewing did a all Queensland produced beers, so they used yeast that was used here, malts, hops that were grown here, border malt from Pryor, and then hops from a farm in Brisbane. So it was like a completely all Queensland beer, all Queensland ingredients. So it is starting to get that way. We always try and use, even with like our collaborations and stuff, we try to work with local businesses and local establishments, because you're trying to keep it local. So we've worked with places like Paradox, Number 58, a cafe who supplied all the finger limes for the beer, and it's just, we would like to involve the local hop growers a lot more, but it's just making it that easy use as well.
At Brisbane's University of Queensland St Lucia campus, the person at the centre of my next line of inquiry had serious challenges all of his own. And for this PhD student, the devil was most definitely in the detail.
I'm a PhD student at the University of Queensland, and I'm looking into using native wild yeast, characterising them and understanding them to make beer. So I was doing an undergrad degree in science, then I started to pursue microbiology because of homebrewing. I was homebrewing a lot at home with friends, and they were offering a course in microbiology that had a lot of similarities to homebrewing, including brewing yeast. And I did that subject and I really enjoyed it, and I pursued an honours degree and then now the PhD.
Right, so this is a Brewmaster. This is our brewing vessel at the university, so it's about 50 litres. We can brew anywhere from 20 litres of beer to 50. And what we can do in here is just soak the grains in water and make the brewing media before you add yeast.
I really like brewing science because I find it's very product related. Instead of being more theoretical science and life science, fundamental science, which takes a while to go from the research to the real world relatedness, I can go working with a brewery, you can go straight from doing something in a lab to directly doing something in a brewery or in an industry where you can see the results right there.
As you might expect, when you're playing in the big leagues, you get all the special toys to go along with the job.
What else we have around here is some really big incubators. So these can grow huge flasks like the ones here. Fill those with liquid and we can grow about 20 of them in each of these and shake them for as long as we need.
So I guess my PhD kind of involves two major projects. One is isolating and characterizing wild yeast for brewing. The other is using analytical biochemistry and more up-to-date science techniques to better understand the fundamental biology that happens throughout the brewing process, be it in the making of the media, the wort to get beer, or in the yeast itself. We also have a PhD student who's just started who's also doing brewing related stuff. He's looking more at the barley, the malt, and looking at the quality control in there and how you can use analytical chemistry to better understand that, and then from that evolve that into more of a helping industry get a better product. We've also recently got an honours student who's looking at the biochemistry of brewing strains of yeast.
So we also have like typical lab bench spaces here where we can grow yeast on plates. We can do sample preparation for whatever kind of process we're doing. And other than that, we also have these, which are our yeast cultures growing up in 5-litre flasks. And we have 4 of those going at the time.
So you're not really creating a strain of yeast. What we're doing is we're isolating them from the environment. So I go out there and I pick a flower, I culture the yeast and bacteria that's on it, and then I select for single strains of these yeast. It's challenging because a lot of these yeasts that are out there aren't made to brew beer with. They're just native yeast growing on plants, be it native or invasive or just normal plants, and they're not used to growing on the media that brewing yeast is grown on, which is wort. It's made of barley sugars. They're more structurally complex than simple sugars that are in most fruits and trees and plants. So they don't like making beer, essentially. They don't like the ethanol, they don't like the sugars. It's a very different environment to what these wild yeast are used to. And that makes it very difficult. And it's a lot of choosing different yeasts, finding different yeasts, and trying to see how they work at a fundamental biology, and then also seeing how they work in the brewing environment.
So what we also have here is a -80 freezer, or -80 degrees, and we can store cultures of yeast and bacteria in here long term. And you can see they're very snowy and they've got cultures in them.
So down in Adelaide, they are using wild yeast to make wine, and they're better understanding these wild yeast. But as far as I know, in Australia, no one is really using single clonal isolates of wild yeast to make beer. And around the world, there's some research into it, but not a lot. So there's a lot of challenges we face while doing this kind of research. The main issue is these wild yeasts aren't very well understood, and trying to upscale them and grow them for brewing industry is very unique and hasn't really been done that much before. So a lot of challenges come when we're trying to grow up these yeast that, as I said before, don't love to grow in this brewing media, and we're trying to make it grow somewhere it doesn't like. That's quite challenging, and then we're trying to scale it up. So we're going from normally growing yeast cultures in 5-10 mils to a couple of 100 litres and then to 1,000 litres, and there's a lot of issues that have arisen from trying to scale up this production of beer with yeast from these small scales to these huge industry scales. Well, it's research, so really it's however much research you want to do. I've only got 6 to 12 months left. Hopefully we get somewhere in the end where we have a product that you can sell and a yeast that we can use to make beer with. But I could easily spend several more years looking at different species of wild yeast, characterizing them better, and it's almost a never-ending, rabbit hole of work you can do in this kind of field.
For Edward, the rabbit hole that he was going down would require a meticulous work ethic and a steady set of hands. Hours of painstaking work came with no promise of a payoff, and after meeting him, I now knew just how complicated the science of brewing could be. Back in my neck of the woods, for the three mates from Burleigh, their second facility was quickly becoming one of the biggest in the region. The success of Gov's, Dan and Eddie's once small-scale endeavour had been reasonably rapid, and their need to upscale production had led them to the other end of the Gold Coast, where the Black Hops crew could really stretch their legs.
Yeah, it's a really good question, how much money we've raised over the years. I mean, we started very much in the garage, and our first commercial beer was released as a contract brewed beer. So we were selling beer before we had a brewery. And back then, I think we put in, a few $1,000s to cover the costs of making that beer. To build this first site here we're in today at Burleigh, it cost us about $400,000-$500,000 in that kind of ballpark. And that was pretty much all the money that we could scrounge together between us. We've gone on to spend several $1 million upgrading and expanding and building our new site.
Brewing at BH2 is a far cry from their humble beginnings at headquarters. But this monumental leap forward for the Black Hops brand was the only way that visionary Govs could achieve their brewing goals.
We're just approaching our 4th month of being open up at BH2, and we're only just starting to scratch at the surface of our potential there. Hopefully this year we'll be pushing up towards the 2 million litre a year mark, but the space we have there available is to very much exceed that.
There was still plenty of room to move in the sprawling brewhouse, although the bigger picture of its potential was unmistakable. Little did I know what it would become over the following 2 years, but even in its early stages, Govs was happy to show me around, albeit with a very humble attitude.
So yeah, Dan, we finally got to a point where we realised that we were running out of space at Burleigh and knew that it was time to build something a lot bigger that would carry us through the future. And that's what we have here behind us. And to be honest, mate, it's the best thing we've ever done.
I'm impressed, mate.
Thank you.
Towers of stainless steel already reached towards the brewhouse's cavernous ceiling. But it was on the other side of the driveway where the site told a story steeped in Gold Coast history.
Still got a bit of the old crane left up there, mate.
Yeah, mate, there's still the cranes in here. I'm sure we'll find a use for them yet. They've been here since the mid-80s, so this place used to be the original Riviera motorboat factory, which is pretty cool. It's a nice part of the Gold Coast history. Riviera is very synonymous with the Gold Coast.
It certainly is.
So we were really stoked to move in here, that we were part of that history. And the cool thing about that is the owner of this place, he actually started Riviera. So he's been part of this building ever since. And I can remember when we first met with him to sign the lease, and there's these 3 young blokes walking in talking about starting a brewery. So I don't know if he took us too seriously on day one.
At which point, I was more than happy to stand back and let Gov exercise some bragging rights.
Found out around the dinner table and heard that Black Hops was snooping around his dad's factory. He was very much on our side to get in here.
Oh, you got the vote.
Yeah, we got the family vote, which is awesome.
Awesome.
Back inside the brewhouse, those towers of stainless steel were about to tell a story of their own, making it clear that the Black Hops trio wouldn't be doing anything by halves as they move forward. And it was at this point I was more than happy to stand back and let Govs exercise some bragging rights.
These are massive, mate.
Yeah, mate, these are our fermenters here at BH2. They're 180 hectolitre, and we've got 6 of them here on site. Now, I'm not trying to brag about things, but they're some of the biggest fermenters in Queensland.
Brag all you want, mate. I would.
Everything about BH2 screamed a step in the right direction. But the challenges of modern craft brewing weren't going anywhere.
We come up with new ideas for beers from all different kinds of places and different people. We've got a team now of over 30 and every one of them comes up with a concept here and there, and that's what we really like to encourage and thrive on, because myself as a brewer, it's not just on me to come up with new recipes. Quite often I get inspiration from someone's idea and I have to turn that into a beer recipe. So yeah, it can really strike us from anywhere. We don't really spend too much time focusing on what everyone else is doing. We're certainly aware of it and not oblivious to it, but we've always brewed beer that we'd like to drink, and we've always succeeded on that due to the fact that we're able to put a lot of thought and consideration and passion into those beers.
Under normal circumstances, it might be hard to choose what beer to go for in the Black Hops ever-growing range. But they'd recently racked up a milestone, and as you might have guessed, all that walking around had made me thirsty.
Yep. Cheers, mate. Cheers. I've heard a lot about this in the last few days.
Yeah, so this is our beer number 100, which is our 100th unique brew since we've been started. It's taken us 4 years to get here, and something we're really proud of.
It's funny, I'm so used to big companies that just brew the same thing over and over again. When someone says they brewed their 100th beer, you've got to sit back and think, these guys have been really hard at it.
Absolutely. It's something that we didn't really kind of pay too much attention to moving towards. We're always about brewing new beers, trying new styles. It's not just about kind of expanding our experience and skills as brewers, but also giving our customers something new and interesting every time they come in.
All right, can't wait any longer. Cheers. Let's go. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, that's 100-minute IPA, 100 individual hop additions that were done by the entire team. Big American style, lots of malt, lots of hops, lots of bitterness. A beautiful way to celebrate the century.
Yeah, let's go again.
Cheers.
Awesome, man.
Thank you.
Very awesome.
Cheers.
Tasting the 100 had capped off a thoroughly impressive visit. And Govs had made a good argument that, along with experience, passion was also an incredibly important ingredient for craft beer production. There was, however, one other all-important ingredient that every beer and every brewery needed a lot of: water.
Spring water was the key though for this place. I always wanted to have spring water for the brewery. 2011, that was when I was seriously thinking about wanting to start a brewery, but I didn't want to just have an industrial brewery. It had to be spring fed. Water's a very valuable resource anyway, and for me, I wanted to lock in a place with a good spring water supply.
Having a pristine water supply obviously makes a big difference to you. A couple of other people have said that the Gold Coast water supply in general makes a difference to Gold Coast beer. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I think that's a fair statement, like it's all coming from Hin's Dam and all that, so yeah, for them it's rainwater, but I guess I don't know anything about what the geology is, whether there's springs running into it there. I'd imagine there is. But we've got our own spring, it's just up behind us, and it basically gravity feeds into the tanks here, and our water's really soft, which is pretty good for beer. Basically doesn't have a lot of stuff in it, which means it doesn't have a lot of resonance and time in the ground. It pretty much rains and it filters through all the cracks from as the lava cools, all the basalt rocks have crack in it. So yeah, it's all from the volcano, the Tweed volcano, just runs through all of these basalt rocks like this and just filters out and comes in really good clean water. So
you're not treating it at all?
No treatment at all. So basically the council regulations have got us to put in a 3-stage filter, which is in there. But before we put the brewery in, we didn't need that. We just drank the water raw for 5 years and we were fine, So I might be able to go to Bali and not get barley belly. But nah, should be right, mate. It's all good. These tanks are like 10,000 gallons or about 38,000 litres, and they're always full. The spring's always running, so yeah, it's pretty good.
What was your first brewing gig? Did you brew anywhere else for money first? Was it a brewer?
No, not really. No, I mean it's just I've sold beer, so I've been like a rep for ages. But no, I've always just been making my own recipes with our water, and a goal to make beer that I want to drink. And fortunately, Lukey's been pretty accepting.
I can't get anything for the refract, Luke. He's got too much grain in it.
And he thinks the beer's all right too. And then both like work on recipes and tweak them and talk about what we think's good and what's bad, and
Those runnings about 1068.
and move the recipe to where we want it to go, and then hone it in and drink it. That's a make it and drink it. If we can't drink it, it's not going out there. Put it that way.
We better test this bubblegum sour.
Watching Pete and Luke work, it was pretty clear that they love what they do. And something tells me that regardless of where they got their water from, they'd still be making incredibly tasty beer. One in particular had gained a lot of attention in recent months.
Need some of that, man.
The bubblegum sour had broken new ground, even by craft beer standards. When it comes to water quality, with most breweries using the readily available supply, in-house water treatment is common practice.
Look, I think it's a nice to have that in your marketing. If that's your key differentiating offer, that your water is from pristine aqua springs in the mountains, then that's awesome. Go with it. But I think technology these days can offer filtration, reverse osmosis, all different options. And what the brewer has to do with that water is up to the brewery and what they're trying to do with the beer. It's not exactly what we build our business on.
Well, the thing about brewing and brewing water and ingredients, you can almost take out things like that. And I'm not trying to say that the water is not an important ingredient. It is an important ingredient. If you're brewing up in Brisbane, which is only an hour north, they're going to one of the 3 dams up there. Very high TDS, high sulfate, high pH. That's really bad for brewing. Munich, nice soft water. Honolulu, nice soft water. Gold Coast, pretty soft water. And that's good for brewing. But if you get a brewery that is wise to their water and they know they have poor water, then they reverse osmosis it, then they add back in the minerals that they want to be working with, and that alleviates that problem.
Important as ingredients may be, this series was always going to be about people. And it was around 2 months into the project when I realised I had quite the gender disparity. So it was time to tap in to some more girl power.
Yeah, so this is the chair force. This is where all the important work happens.
Word on the street is that you're the brains of the operation.
Actually, Lee is the brains.
Is that alphabetical?
Yeah.
Chair force is just a fun way of saying office. So I became involved with the business a couple of years ago when I walked into the tap room and basically asked for a job, and I started out working in the tap room and then eventually made my way into the office. I was in the tap room for about 6 months. It might have even been less than that actually. We were growing really, really quickly and we had no office staff at the time. Basically, when I first started, I took a little bit from each of the founders' plates and that started my role. And then my role grew from there. So the chair force takes care of everything behind the scenes of the brewery. We take care of marketing, beer launches, scheduling of brews, basically everything that goes into running the brewery that's not on the front line. We help the taproom staff and we also assist the sales team as well. I didn't have any preconceived notions about industry before I started because I drank beer, but I actually didn't drink craft beer. So I didn't really know much about the industry before I came to Black Ops. I think being a female in the industry is pretty awesome. I don't know if it's just where I work specifically, but I receive a lot of support at work and also at events that we go to outside work. So I've worked out on a construction site before. I was doing fly in, fly out on the mines in WA, done that. I've worked as purchasing officer in a steel construction company. So other male dominated industries as well. And yeah, I think that the craft beer industry is leaps and bounds ahead of all of those.
Absolutely, go girls. Now we've got females throughout the business. We've got at the head of our lab is a female. We have females in our production team. Our brewery engineer is a female. We've got females on our packaging crew, and also in the other, I guess, more typical areas where you would be in our sales team and our marketing team. How'd you go with Andy? All good?
Yeah, all good. It's already in the system, and I already told Tim that he's going to come around to
He might come earlier because he heard the barbecue.
Oh,
you know what he's like.
Tim has it all ready to go anyway.
It's a hard question thinking about being a woman in the industry because I haven't ever focused on it, so it's not until someone asks me a question like that. So at some point I need to be able to stop. Something I would observe over those 15 years is, in the early days of early brewing, when we did go to a conference or a trade show or something like that, or an awards night, very few females in the brew, just as an observation. But my experience, at least, hasn't been ever that has somehow been a barrier or a challenge. This is my daughter.
Fellow video using real fruit. So fruit is full of fermentable.
Maybe the craft industry is a little bit of a special place for women in terms of being comfortable doing roles that haven't traditionally been seen as female roles or whatever. We see ourselves as a female-friendly brand, and I guess that flows through the business as well.
These will be champs.
Oh, okay.
Because we realised when we were labelling them yesterday that we didn't have any to say what the beer was.
So what do you laminate and they're going to stick that on?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, and I think, as I said, the fact that there are a lot of females in the industry now, it's great, A, that the industry is allowing that to happen, but B, that from the outside looking in, it looks like the type of industry that females would like to be involved in. So we get applicants, for all roles, male, female, all the time. Yeah.
For a female outside the industry, if you want to get in the industry, just go for it. I think the support that we get, this industry is really focusing on supporting women in the industry, and I think that's so important. Yes, it is a male-dominated industry, but I think that we've almost got a leg up being women, and that's really cool.
While on the subject of people making the industry what it is, I do of course have to mention that it's not always the people who make the beer that make a special contribution to the bigger picture of craft brewing. Being able to educate people about the finer points of craft brewing is not just reserved for those working with an actual craft beer brand. That education has proven to be a successful venture for the couple that I was about to meet. And they were on a fast track to give as many people as possible an outside opinion.
So we've been running hop-on brewery tours for about 3.5 years now. In that time, we've done over 700 tours, and we've taken out approximately 3,500 guests. So there's a lot of people to introduce to the craft beer scene in Queensland. Right, so we average 6 to 7 tours a week, and generally there's anywhere between 2 to 22 people on tour. So we have a couple of vans that we take out. If we get a bigger group, we run both vans in a little convoy. We launched Hop On Brewery Tours back in April of 2016. At the time I was working in finance and had been in that position for about 14 years, and I was pretty much over it. Plus my partner Jocelyn's from the States, so I wasn't seeing her anymore. So we decided to do something together. We went to a beer festival in Sydney, saw a brewery tour van for down there, and we thought, no one's doing that in Queensland. So we thought, what a great idea, and all the way back from Sydney we talked about it, came up with names, and yeah, we launched it in April.
What is my role in Hop On Brewery Tours? A little bit of everything, except for finances. So everything from updating the website, creating new tours, doing the Facebook ads, any of the marketing, to actually getting out and running the tours and meeting the people and getting behind the scenes. So definitely a jack of all trades. It's only 2 of us that run the business, so we have to be fairly self-sufficient in that. You learn as you go.
Truth be known, Matt and Joz are a wealth of craft beer knowledge, and spending the day with them quickly proved to be an incredibly valuable experience.
Yeah, I don't think people realise what they're coming onto when they come onto a Hop On Brewery Tour. I think they think it's going to be a pub crawl, but we try and make it a really good blend of education and beer.
And it's not surprising to find out that many a regular beer drinker walks away from one of their tours a craft beer convert.
So we want to make sure that they learn about how to drink beer, the process behind making it, what goes into it. But we also want to give them quite a bit of beer as well, so no one ever gets off dissatisfied.
So when we're out on tour, our biggest focus is really the education and the appreciation of beer. So every tour includes an introduction to what beer is, how to taste beer, how to kind of take your time with it and not just scull it because it's cold and wet.
Brewing. So we'll get into more of the detail, but they're doing what's called a kettle sour. So that's essentially cooling down the base liquid and adding lactobacillus, which makes yogurt tangy. So if you've ever had a sour beer, has anyone had a sour beer?
Yeah, answering the questions, dispelling myths. We talk through all of the ingredients and what their role is in beer and how, at the end, how it all comes together. So generally we'll do a walkthrough of the brewery. We'll get a staff member or a brewer to explain the process, from milling the grain all the way to getting it into the fermenter, and teaching people that there's so much more than, that the mainstream lager that we always see everywhere, that there's this whole variety of flavors and colors and sour beers and barrel-aged beers and all of that into it. Really just getting people out of their comfort zone. So especially people that might have only tried Corona or maybe 150 Lashes, saying, okay, well, we've tried those, but let's take the next step. Let's explore further. Do you like sweets? Do you like chocolate? Do you like coffee? And introducing them to those styles of beers that might suit their palate. So in the States, craft beer isn't even really a thing because it's all just beer. When I grew up, there wasn't a special craft beer bar. It was, you'd go in and there'd be the Budweiser and the Miller and the Coors, but there was also the Deschutes and the Bridgepond and the Rogue and the stuff that was brewed 10 minutes down the road. So there wasn't that differentiation, whereas here you still find there are specific craft beer bars or craft beer sections of the bottle shops and things like that. That wasn't how I grew up.
When it came to his new look at beer, homebrewer and tour attendee Graham had this to say.
Open-minded is probably the way I came. I love beer. I've drunk for years and years and years. I love it. And to explore more beers and more avenues is fantastic. So why not? And come and find out more, It's got to help.
First beer that we're going to have is called Tropic Like It's Hot. Minimum of 3 sips of every beer today. If you've never had a sour, you might be a bit thrown. So have a look at it. You'll see there's very little head on it. It's not very foamy. Sour beers tend to not have a lot of head retention on it.
What I knew about craft beer before I took this tour was really only going to Dan Murphy's and seeing there's a beer there that I've never heard of. Let's give it a try. That's basically all it was. What I've learned today so far, we've really only been to one place. It's really opened my eyes as to what it's all about. So, yeah, impressed.
So we'd love to expand into other states, potentially Tasmania. I'm originally from there, so it'd be great to get down there and do some tours. We're familiar with the breweries and the brewers down there, so that makes it a little bit easier. We've also talked about getting more staff on in the future. At the moment it's just me and Joss, so in the 3.5 years we've been running them, we haven't really had a break. So it'd be nice to take one soon.
It definitely sounded like Matt and Joz needed a break. And something tropical sounded pretty nice. For a relatively young brand still making their mark on the industry, time off would be a luxury. But Smokey and Luke's work ethic and creativity had recently paid off in a big way.
I suppose that's one of the big strengths of the industry, is that you've got the freedom to just make whatever you want.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you still have to be able to sell it. There's restrictions around it, in a marketing perspective. But yeah, our focus is locally if we can, supporting other businesses. So if they can provide me ingredients for beers, then I'm going to have a hell of a time.
It's just the freedom and the potential for constant variety.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's it. And seasonal variety too. So seasonal availability. That's something that we need to tap back into as a culture. We're so used to the Coles and Woolworths forests, So I think, it's a good thing to be able to learn what's seasonally available and what grows well with minimal impact in our area. So those are the things that I'd like to focus on using in our beers where I can. The same way I'm going to make beers that taste better at different times of the year. I thought for me, some of the darker beers are better through the cooler months, and then you want light and crispy sours and things like that for the hotter months. So that's just a personal thing, though. But I think we'll see our trend towards that in production.
Speaking of hotter months, has it been hot this summer or what?
Oh, dude. Yeah, it's pretty warm up here. As you know now, it's probably 80% humidity. It's really hot. You turn that the kettle on, or heating water or anything like that in here, the CIP car. It's pretty warm, mate. We're working around here well and truly above the 45 degree mark. So it keeps me all the toxins out of my belly, mate. Suck it in, Pete, suck it in.
The duo had recently taken out top honours for a People's Choice Award at Brisbane's Gabs Festival.
Plenty of room in here.
The Great Australian Beer Spectacular.
It's got to be bubblegum, Leaky. The magic. The beer that started it all. Looking good. I want to see the colour of it now. Still pink. Not green. Yes. Stability in colour, you beauty.
Conceived in unique surroundings, the bubblegum sour highlighted the duo's equally unique brewing ability. With chickens close at hand and a brewhouse surrounded by dense bush, it was only a matter of time before I met another source of their inspiration, their mascot.
My little mate is right there. I want to see him bite my finger. It'll be funny to stay in video stuff.
Probably will.
Yeah, I reckon he'd have a go at me, to be fair. It's probably not the best idea to try and aggravate him. If you want me to move him, I can, but I don't like grabbing him by the head because it kind of strangles him. Yeah. I prefer to get him by the tail, but look, he's not doing me any harm being there, to be fair. It's probably 35 degrees in here, I reckon. 30 to 35 degrees. Plenty of humidity, so he's going to be active. It's just whether he sees my hand, see, I can get pretty close to him here, so that's the back of him. So what I'd normally do is just grab him just behind the back of the head, and they're strong, and this snake, you wouldn't know it from looking at it there, but he's probably as thick as my arm. I don't have the thickest arm going, but the best part of his body was that big, unless there's another one in here that I saw earlier this morning. But basically, I can get right in there and get him out. Whoop, here he is. He's ready for me. But I'm not really interested in doing any Steve Irwin stuff for the camera at the moment. So he's fine. He just keeps the rodents down, and it's happy days.
So yeah, that's how we get local. That's why the snake's on the local tin, right there. There's always a python around here somewhere. Pretty much every house in Currumbin Valley has them. It's not competitive. It's really inclusive. There's something about it really draws me in.
Jesus, Tony.
Yeah. So, have you ever had grape hubba bubba before?
Yeah. We took out the People's Choice Award, and for all things, a sour. Since Christmas started, we're up around just over 10, probably close to a dozen.
Everyone has their own experiences, and for mine, it's been incredible. I feel glorified. I feel like everywhere I go, I'm on a red carpet. Any woman in this industry is killing it. Yeah.
Cousin's father-in-law used to own a microbrewery in West Australia. Now he was running up only on tank water, so he designed his brewery for low water consumption. Yeah, he came over and helped us design it.
The main thing is just how simple home brewing is, really. When you look at how these guys have to do it on this scale, it's pretty incredible.
What water we do have, we're keeping these alive, and our trees as well, our perennial crops. And yeah, the parsley's a big hit in terms of income, so we've really got to make these guys work.
Protocols left us cold, could leave it there. Was our friend. I thought we had